Yeah, because it's coming on Wednesday.
8 weeks was.
You just sit on it.
So what's he making, like 8-footers or something, or what? Or one length of.
I still have to go home and shovel my driveway.
I was not expecting
How does he bring it in?
that much snow.
Russ, who else is joining on
I
the
didn't
Zoom?
know if he had to bring, make all the pieces, bring them, assemble them there. Pretty much, right? And you want that on the
Just
polished
information.
concrete, right?
In me. We'll have to attach it. Let's give it I'll give it a couple more minutes on that one, just to be safe.
Public hearing is, if call the public. Gerald doesn't join.
Or we'll just, maybe we modify the agenda. What's that? I think we could, but pay them to join us.
Is Laura the only one on there?
Yes. Yep. Motion, and then make another motion to go into the other one. Oh, yeah, then we have to close that public hearing, but we go back to it. Yeah, but, can we make one motion, please? Close regular meeting and open the public hearing, or do they need me to? Oh, that can, okay.
That smoke came down heavy this morning, it was like, I did it with my blower, it was like that tree, but it was so bad. It was good.
This. That's in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I thought it was down here, not up here.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's wrong too. Yeah,
John.
Bill's right about this. This is
No,
the wrong spot.
that's what we discussed.
No,
No, we discussed this down here. Below.
Yeah, that's
The last four are 7342.
So the last.
I think that's meeting participant on the email. Let me go to email.
Extraction loader.
Should actually.
She was solar.
Meeting ID 839-7668-9179.
The last four digits are 9179.
I'm just saying what it says.
We'll just discuss it.
okay, but it is this.
It's one below it.
I didn't think so. This is, right all the way up to Hogan, is what we talked about.
Yes.
I'm gonna work on getting Gerald in, so.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Center inland, I thought.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
No, that's got all individual parcels.
Center in Linden,
The east side of Linden.
No, the west side.
the west side. That runs all the way to Major Road.
Yes, to Runs Major. That's,
We'll discuss when we get there.
I see faces, that's why.
I seen the rivers
They're here.
run out of the bridge.
What?
They're here because of this, isn't?
You can see the river.
Yeah, but I thought that's what we discussed, but I could be wrong. I mean, I didn't, I think that's what Ross got out of it too.
You remember the legends? We used to go room on that. The dogs.
Shoot, we waiting on Ross for something? I think we can start. He's trying to get Gerald.
Yeah, we gotta get all the way down here.
All right. I don't know if you want to connect you.
7:02, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think Ross is trying to get Gerald on the Zoom. Gage is on now. But
Hey, yeah, sorry, I didn't see that email till just now.
no problem. Thank you for joining.
Of course.
I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and supported to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes from the last regular planning commission meeting, December 18th, 2024. I did see some changes needed to the discussion on miscellaneous business. It looks like that may have been not updated from the prior minutes. They're over here. Yeah, line 17 to 20.
On December 18th.
I think that discussion, I think that miscellaneous business was discussed at the prior meeting. And that what we discussed for miscellaneous business was Ross invited us to the training for the county. And other than that, I have no other comments. Anyone else?
No, that's accurate, so that's what I remember.
If we squash that.
Yeah, we could,
Omit 17 through 20.
yeah, and add to the miscellaneous business, discussion about the county planning training that Ross presented to us. So, I will any other discussion on that? I'll entertain a motion to.
Make a motion as amended.
Have a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended
Support.
and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Ross, we approved the minutes as amended, as I discussed with you earlier. And it was just,
17 through 20.
yeah, removing the miscellaneous business and adding what we talked about that meeting is discussing the county planning training. It's approved.
Who motioned to approve?
It was motioned by Kevin and supported by Zach.
Thank you.
And then the approval of the agenda was.
Oh, sorry about that. Might have to go back to the roll tapes for that one. I don't remember.
That was
I supported.
Rich and Zach supported.
Yep. Thank you.
For the approval of the agenda.
Sorry if I started without you.
I'll miss you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a further. Thank you.
Sorry.
Get this going up on the screen here.
I don't know what it is. Over here for seniors Zoom. Know about this.
Can you accept my request?
That's something new? Is that added, or what is that?
What's that? That's new too. I went over this and I missed that.
Where did this come from?
Oh, he just
I
came.
think he just came out.
He did, yep.
From McKenna.
We're all set, everyone's on. A lot of jobs.
Yeah.
John, you know anything about that?
Let's wait till we get to that item.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you know, it's next on the list. All right, so, old business item number 1.
We're doing call to the public.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Call to the public. Anyone that has, anything to discuss that is on the agenda? Go ahead, Scott.
We're talking about old businesses, should there be new business if we're going to be going over it tonight too? I'm just kind of confused. We're just going over it is what we're doing?
What's that?
Well, it says old business and it's under the new business is nothing.
Well, this is old business. We've already had this business before in front of
Okay,
the
I
planning
just want,
commission.
okay, but it is so, but it's still going on, is what I'm saying.
Still going on,
All right.
but we've already discussed it.
All right. All right, I've been in talking to Ross. I want to talk to Tyrone Township today because we're into this extraction thing. And it's a big thing because of traffic and everything else, but, I don't know if you guys are aware, the Sutton Farm was bought by, was it American Ag?
American Ag.
Well, yeah, American Ag,
Okay.
and they're tearing the Sutton buildings down now. So I went to Tyrone Township, they have not applied for, a permit as of yet. So what we need to find out is, where do they go to get the permits first? Are they going to Lansing, are they going to the county, or they go to the township first? Or anywhere else in our township, they do the same thing? Because I know there's other areas here that we think they're gonna be going there too, somebody else. So, we need to ask that question, where are they going first? Are they gonna go ahead and try to get it through without coming to the township first on these extraction deals?
For the extraction in a adjoining township?
Well, I'm talking about in ours or any other. You gotta remember, this one here is not in our township, but it's right on the edge, Holforth Road. As soon as you get over Holforth Road, you're right there, and that's, the Sutton Farm is huge, so if they put that gravel pit there, it's gonna affect Tyrone Township terribly, because they'll be using Fenton Road, probably White Lake Road for their trucking, so make sure you get that one on the radar. Roads, we're probably gonna, while we're doing that, we should get a hold of the county during this extraction, because we definitely gotta make sure we protect our roads and get locked down truck routes.
Thank you, Scott. Any other public comment? Who wants to go first?
Okay,
Oh,
just a
Rick?
quick one, Jeanette. So I guess I'm just confused. I see that you took that off the agenda, off the meeting minutes, but then that means that it was on the meeting minutes prior, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was discussed
Yeah,
at the prior meeting. It was about,
yeah. The planning commission briefly discussed contacting Livingston County Health Department.
that, and additionally, they considered changing the 12/18 planning commission meeting to a regular session in order to elect a vice chairman.
Okay, I understand. So it was just carryover into the.
That's my understanding.
I think it was a document saving error.
Yeah, sure, and I can see how that happens. I guess my question is, so whatever happened to those topics? So I hope that you'll update us on those.
Well, Kevin got elected chairman, vice chairman,
No,
right? Additionally, they considered changing the.
not that one, I'm
Oh,
talking about
the
the
other
one
one.
before that. The one that's important to our health and well-being.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Go ahead.
Hey, my name's Kevin Pierce, I'm on Hogan Road, 9227 Hogan. And I briefly was looking, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but the overlay for the new solar plant on Hogan. Can I just talk about that, or?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, I've lived there for 12 years, and we've had the gravel plant down the street that's in Deerfield Township using our road as a artery to get to the highway. We've had several issues with it, and we've always had the modular home company down there that was a little bit under 300, now they're just below 400. That road was put into a truck route with 0 ordinances. Well, there's 1 ordinance. It would be a Jake break. They've taken the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit and raised it to 55. So I've came in several times on the other meeting as far as the travel, the density of trucks. They're allowed so many per day, 150 per day, 300 per week. No one monitors that. So my fear would be with additional 100 homes into the modular park that they just put in, the 100 additional ones that were working on a 20-year-old building permit. Now with the new overlay, if they do happen to put the solar plant there, there's obviously trucks going to be servicing the devices, maintaining them, hauling batteries in and out. I don't know if any of you guys have been on Hogan Road in the last 10 years, but Hogan Road is tapped out. It can't handle any more traffic. I live in an old farmhouse that's 60 feet from the road, and I have to shovel dust like snow off of my porch. So, and even as late as 3 weeks ago, when we had that warm-up, they graded the road for the gravel trains, and Wayne from the road commission told me that the snow was freeze-dried, and it turned into dust. So my dust was like our snow we had today, last week. So I came in here several times to talk about the dust, living there, and so on and so forth. The way they treat it is chloride. The speed has been taken from 25 to 55. So I don't know if any of you guys understand what a 160,000-pound truck loaded going 55 miles an hour down past you. And it's a guess. I don't radar them or anything like that. It's just, it's something that's, it's unheard of. It's not safe. But nobody that gets material from that gravel pit actually lives on our road. So there's a few companies, like I know guys from high school and things like Royalty and maybe the guys in Fenton, and they actually call me and tell me, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing, I'm going as slow as I can go. It's unbelievable, the dust. So I think the selection of that property seems like it's out in the country, and yeah, maybe it'd work, but Hogan Road is completely tapped out for travel. I mean, if you can imagine here under 400 houses going to work in the morning and coming home in the evening time, and then throw 150 gravel trains in on a daily basis, it kind of makes your property and material turn into a dust storm. So that's something, and everyone here is welcome to come down and check it out. But as far as making a selection of that property, that property is basically about 200 yards from my front doorstep. So that would be one of my major concerns, is the road's just at capacity.
Yeah, understood, and I think, it's a good point about the additional traffic, especially during the construction, which who knows how long that will last.
It could be astronomical what the construction is, because it's a rolling hill. Obviously that works where they make it somewhat flat. They've got to do some kind of footings, and I don't know how they build them, but I don't fully understand how they actually even work, to tell you the truth. It must be battery storage, because there's surely not power lines that they transmit through. So, and all that stuff would have to go. And I mean, if you think gravel trains are bad, you should see when they haul a modular home down there. It's the whole width, and it's 55 tops. So, it's like anything in our township. We've got a lot of ordinances, but nobody enforces them. So we don't have police going down there to monitor things. I know them all by first name. I know all the road commission guys. I know Wayne. I know all the officers. And they're like, hey, nothing I can do. It's rules are rules. It takes 3 years for a traffic study. I've been there 12, so we could have did it 4 times. And it blows my mind that they took the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit by the hill, by Nymphy and up at the top of the hill. They're removed. And I know that they at some point they were traffic offense because my daughter got a ticket there. So now it's 55 right through all those houses. There's more houses now on the old part of Hogan than the actual subdivision type area. The reason why they had that 25 up there on the hill. But I mean, I've been to meetings here where a loaded gravel train, there was a designer engineer in the crowd said, there's no way to sugarcoat it, guys. He said, if you have a loaded gravel train All it does is mill the gravel into powder and dust, and the only way to keep up with this, keep putting more gravel on it. And so that dust has saturated our house since 2003. Well, actually 17, but the other company was there for a short time before that. But, so I'm just saying, Hogan Road is at an all-time capacity for any industrial travel. And there's word on the street that on northbound Linden, the future plans for the same company has the overlay, maybe another gravel pit there. So, I mean, it's just something we have to look forward, because it seems like when the gravel train road got put into order through this township, 7 people on the board voted it in 2003. And none of those people lived on the road. And so it's hard for me to understand what has went on since then. So, I mean, it's a complete nightmare to be on that road. So, I'm just letting you know that it's probably one of, as far as safety and poorness and people living in the house, you know, on the street, you know, it's a bad decision. So, that's all I had to say.
Thank you. And, you know, I think the issue of approving a truck route and stuff,
Yeah,
is not a planning
I know.
condition, but it is an important
Yeah,
thought that adding additional for
right,
a potential overlay,
yeah,
so.
all right,
But
appreciate
but
it.
I don't know how that it gets approved, the truck route, that's a resolution.
Complicated issue, I know, but,
2003, I know it.
You can recall more than I can
Yeah.
on this specific topic,
Right.
I'm sure.
So the township had the ability to say no?
The township board did approve a resolution establishing truck routes, but as far as how that truck route got established, I believe that it was kind of more like the township had to do it, is my understanding. But that's because that there were other complexities that I'm not totally privy to.
Well, and it's also in Deerfield Township.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. So
they could go to Argentine Road.
Well, they could go to Argentine Road and go that way, exactly. But obviously, anybody that knows, that's the way shorter route to get to the highway. And most of the business comes from 75 and
Yeah.
north.
But that's what I don't know, Ross, is what, you know, there's a county road, but the township can determine if it's truck route or not?
It's a coordinated, it is coordinated between the road commission and the township.
Right. And
But did the county need the resolution by the board to,
That I don't.
or was that just
It's well before my time, I do not know the specifics.
that's something I don't know either.
yeah. Well, it's a long thing, but there was a Spring Aggregate owned it before that. They went out of business. They went to war with Deerfield and Tyrone. They lost in court. Soon after the court case, Spring Aggregate was gone. The new guy came in, promised the world, and his major outcome now is obviously making a fortune off the gravel. I live on Hogan Road. I know it's full of gravel. I've planted 100 trees. But his outcome is he needs to provide Deerfield Township with 30 buildable lots on a lake, 3 acres apiece. And that's his end goal. And when he extracts everything from that area, that's what he has to have, so it's suitable for the reclamation to the Deerfield Township. Because before it was just a cliff, and they were happy to have the new guy in there. So I think a lot of those things got pushed back to make this an artery to the highway. So
Don't quote me, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was a court order.
it was a court order because,
We were required to do that, so the resolution was necessary because that's what the courts decided. But again, it's a very complex issue that happened many years ago that, you know, it's not black and white.
sure.
But it's not something that the township said, we want a truck route here. It was more like the township, their hand was forced at the time, is my understanding.
Right. I've been dealing with that for 12 years. What I'm saying is the overlay where that property is, I mean, nobody wants to have that anywhere near their house.
I know.
I get that. But we don't live in an industrial area. You know what I'm saying? It seems like that's more suited for that area. And who knows where there is a place? I don't know. But I know that on our road, from the combination of the gravel pit and the modular home, almost touching 400 houses, it's at capacity. You know, so, I mean, and you know, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comment? Hearing none, we will move to old business, item number 1, which is extractive industrial zoning ordinance amendments. And on this item, we're going to hold a public hearing tonight. So I will entertain a motion to close or suspend the regular meeting and open the public hearing.
So moved. Support.
The motion is supported.
Yeah, Kevin supported. Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, so we are now in the public hearing. So the public hearing is open. Reading of the public notice. Notice is hereby given. The Tyrone Township Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on, and one thing to note, it says Wednesday here, really it's Tuesday, and we clarified this with Attorney Gerald Fisher, and he gave us a recommendation to still hold the meeting, but we will not be taking action on this item tonight in case someone, and he gave Ross some other direction to post some things on the front door. But hold a public hearing Wednesday, January 14th, 2025, beginning at 7 p.m. at the Tyrone Township Hall, 8420 Runyon Lake Road, Fenton, Michigan, 48430. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive public comments regarding amending the Tyrone Township zoning ordinance, Article 17, M2, Heavy Industrial, and Article 19, EI, Extractive Industrial District, and amending the Tyrone Township Regulatory Ordinance Number 21 for extractive industrial operations to coordinate with Article 19 of the zoning ordinance. The proposed amendment and addition to zoning ordinance number 36, Article 17 include adding a new special land use as subsection L of section 17.03 of Tyrone Township zoning ordinance number 36. The proposed amendment to zoning ordinance number 36, Article 19 includes, in general, an amendment to conform with requirements of the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, MCL 125.3205(3)-7, with regard to the mining of natural resources, the Act, deleting provisions of the current Article 19 which are not fully consistent with the Act, adding provisions which are intended to carry out the intent of the Act. The proposed amendment of ordinance number 21 includes provisions determined by the Planning Commission to be needed and protective of the township in light of the amendment of zoning ordinance Article 19. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission is expected to make a recommendation to the Township Board on these proposed amendments. Additional information is available at the Tyrone Township Planning and Zoning Department, 8420 Runyon Lake Road, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Individuals with disabilities requiring auxiliary aids or services should contact the Tyrone Township Clerk at 810-629-8631 at least 7 days prior to the meeting. So we can review this application, this amendment. Review these amendments, which Mr. Fisher, you can confirm there's been no changes since the last regular meeting. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right.
Okay, so we've worked on this for about 3 or 4 meetings now. I think even the last changes we made were very minor. So, Ross, do we need to summarize them, or?
So going to the agenda, we can review, so a brief summary of each proposed amendment would be.
Okay, Mr. Fisher, could you give us a very brief summary of each amendment change?
Okay, fair enough. One of the good starting points here is to clarify what is behind these amendments. Why are we doing this? And the most critical point here is that the Michigan legislature has created standards for approval that required significant change to the zoning ordinance, particularly Article 19. And so what has happened is that the legislature has granted what you might call most favored treatment of this one use as it compares to all other uses. So the legislature has provided that in any district, so it can be an industrial district, it can be office, it can be residential. In any district of the township, a proposed mining use may not be denied unless very serious consequences would result. And so the statute goes on to also provide specified criteria that the township can consider. And while the township's current ordinance, zoning ordinance, Article 19, along with Article 22 for special land uses, would be normally helpful for this kind of thing until the legislature got involved in this and modified it so that these provisions do not have the standards that we need to deal with applications coming in for rezoning of property for this use. The second issue here is the operation. Once the zoning is granted, then there's a need for detailed regulations to apply to how the operation is going to occur, what kind of performance guarantees, insurance, where all the equipment can be located, and crushers and all that, where the haul routes are, and approved haul routes. And this is very important for the township, and I'm listening to your citizens talk about what the impact is on them, and that is, I mean, these are industrial impacts, which, as I mentioned, can be in a residential district, which apparently you have. You also have the heavy, loud, dangerous trucks that are involved in this, usually a large number each day during the season of mining. And these things last for 15, 20, maybe 30 years in some cases. And so to maximize the effectiveness of this, these ordinances are being amended to provide the best standards feasible to make sure that if they're approved, they're going to be not an unreasonable impact to the extent that that is possible. And then if the zoning is granted, that the operation is going to be very well regulated, and on a biannual basis, there would be inspections and all of that. So looking first at Article 19, what we have done here, what the Planning Commission has done, and I've helped them along a little bit, is that we have pardon?
He just coughed.
I coughed, sorry.
Sorry. We have broken the process of reviewing an application for the zoning into two parts. Part number one is the determination of whether there is a need for the sand and gravel proposed to be mined. And the reason for requiring the need analysis is that the Michigan Court of Appeals, and actually the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals, have determined that this very serious consequences standard is somewhat vague, of course, but how much of a consequence does a local government have to tolerate? And the Court of Appeals says, well, you have to tolerate more if there is a very big need for these resources in the market area. And you don't have to tolerate as much if there isn't a big need for it. And so essentially, it's very difficult, maybe impossible, to make the determination on the ultimate issue of very serious consequences without first determining how much need there is for these resources. And so that's what we're going to do, or that's what the ordinance would do under this amended Article 19. And so there's a whole a series of provisions in here that require information to be produced in an application, and then the ordinance lays out a detailed review process, and then the Planning Commission would make findings on the extent of need that there would be for these particular resources, make a recommendation to the Township Board, and then it would be referred to the Township Board for a final determination, and the Township Board has the authority to conduct another public hearing if it likes, and then make a determination on the amount of need. So now we, at the end of that first part, the township has got a determination of how much need there is, and again, if there is a high degree of need, then the township has to tolerate a little more in terms of consequences. But if there's a low amount of need, the township does not have to tolerate as much. So that takes us to part two, then, which is a process that has many facets in it to determine whether or not there are very serious consequences that would result from the operation. And as I mentioned, the legislature has provided a number of criteria that would be involved here. And this ordinance creates categories based upon the state law of the criteria that could be considered. But what we have done here is added a number of sub-paragraphs that would essentially trigger consideration by the Planning Commission and require a demonstration by the applicant on what kind of impacts there would be from the property, from the mining on the property. So the categories generally are: what's the impact on existing land uses? What's the impact on property values? Impact on pedestrian and traffic safety? Identifiable health, safety, and welfare interests that would be impacted. Overall public interest in the proposed excavation. And then and you have, within those categories, you've got a number of considerations to be made. So you go through all of that, and that often takes at least like a couple nights of hearings that the Planning Commission would conduct. And then the Planning Commission would make a determination or recommendation to the board on whether or not a special land use under the zoning ordinance should be granted for this particular property, and any conditions that should be imposed. So that then goes to the Township Board, and the Township Board makes the final determination on that. So now, what happens if the Township Board makes an approval? An approval gives the property owner the right to make another application, and this time the property owner would make an application under ordinance number 21, which is regulating the operation. Rather than asking about the zoning and whether this ought to be allowed in this location, this is the ordinance that determines how the operation is going to be conducted. And this is a pretty, again, another very detailed ordinance, has an extremely detailed application process requiring overhead maps and plans and drawings that will lay out where all the equipment's going to be, where the mining is going to take place on the property, how deep it's going to be, is it going to be using a dredge or front-end loader or what? And then the Planning Commission, again, would review all of that material, and the Planning Commission would also have its experts, the experts of the township, weigh in on all these things, because it's all pretty technical, or a lot of it is technical. The township could require various experts, like if the property owner is going down into the, in dredging, going down in below the water table, that may require a hydrogeologist to come in to make a determination of the impact on groundwater, what impact on neighboring wells that might be impacted, and that sort of thing. The township planner would be involved. McKenna would make a determination. The township engineer would come in and examine to see if there are any engineering issues that relate to the project. And then the application then is sent to the township board for final determination on the application. And the one thing I left out here, it's very important, is a detailed plan must be provided showing what's going to happen to the property when the mining is done. And generally speaking, after mining, during the mining, the property owner and the operator should be doing some kind of reclamation, kind of right behind the mining. But in the end, before the operator leaves the site, there's an obligation, and that's backed up by like a performance bond. There's an obligation to restore it. It's really not restoring the property because they've removed so much material, but it's reclaimed. It's called reclaimed, so that the slopes are gentle slopes that would be able to maintain vegetation and be stable, and all of that sort of thing. And this ordinance has a lot of requirements in terms of how the operation is going to be conducted, how far from the road, how far from neighboring property owners, and all of that kind of thing. What kind of lighting, noise, vibration, environmental protection, berms, and site barriers, truck sequencing and stacking, regulation of off-site impacts, how high and what location will the stockpiling be, and then of course if they're going to be operating in the water, there'll be a regulation on the depth of the operation. And as I mentioned, so there's whole sections on determining the amount of a performance bond, the amount of insurance that would be required, and so forth. Now, the other thing that comes into play in the existing ordinances as well as this ordinance is that if the property is located in an M2 heavy industrial district, then the use of concrete crushing can be allowed as an accessory use, but the overall impact has to be weighed and can't be any more than it would otherwise be. So it's not a matter of maxing out on the gravel extraction and so forth, and then adding the concrete crushing. It's a matter of looking at the whole picture and setting a maximum level on both of those operations. And so the concrete crushing is the subject of Ordinance 17, which is only in the heavy M2 heavy industrial district, and that has to be granted a special land use, and then it can be pulled into the mining operation with a maximum number of trucks and maximum noise and all of that sort of thing. So these are the three ordinances. The Article 19 that would really do the zoning, and Ordinance 21, which regulates the operation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the review, very thorough review of that.
Thank you.
So at this time, we will receive public comment. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, now I know I got the attorney here.
Yes.
All right,
Can you speak into the mic?
how much, okay, Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. How much is determined by how much do we need? Well, I think we determined that by a radius around the township distance, right? For the material?
Yeah, it's a radius from the site, and the radius is generally the amount of distance that trucks can travel efficiently,
Yeah.
so that the materials can be transported that distance without raising prices unreasonably.
Okay, so can we regulate how a distance for gravel trains coming from other areas? Because can they come from a great distance, or can we regulate that?
So in other words, can we regulate gravel mining activity from another community?
Well, to a certain extent. Like, we know we're gonna have probably Heartland, Fenton, but how many miles can you regulate? How many miles can eat off that pit?
Yeah, well, you're talking about a lawsuit now, because, because there's nothing in the statute that talks about one township regulating the activities in another township. On the other
I'm talking about ours, yeah.
On the other hand, the truth is, as has been disclosed here, there is a significant impact that is the subject of regulation here on the haul rods.
Yeah.
And so it never came to litigation, but I represented the city of Chelsea in Washtenaw County a number of years ago, and the township just to their north was going to approve a mining operation, and nearly the whole haul route went through Chelsea.
Yeah.
And getting to I-94.
Yeah.
And so we drafted an ordinance to regulate it.
Okay.
It never got to the point of regulation, because we settled the whole thing by having the owner donate the property of the mining property owner donating the property to the state, to DNR, to create a park in exchange for the DNR allowing the operator to use some of their property in another community for gravel mining.
Okay, my second question would be, and I asked earlier, the permit process. We won't know. Like I said, I went to Heartland. I asked them if they would let us know if there's a permit. Somebody comes in and puts a permit in, would they let the township know here? Because it's right. We're only talking a couple 100 feet from our township line. So he said he would, that, but I don't, I'm not taking his word for that, but he said he would let Tyrone Township know about that.
Well, my recommendation would be to do an ongoing FOIA request for any documents that relate to applications for mining.
Okay, all right, so the permits, there's like American Ag, are they gonna go to Lansing first, the county first, us first? What's the process? Because we're gonna get snowballed if they go to anybody else but us first, so
No question about it. And the mining, the Aggregates Association, the statewide Aggregates Association, has been attempting for about 8 years to get legislation amended to take the decision-making away from local governments, away from townships, and giving it to Eagle. And, they've been putting it in there, and when it gets to this lame duck session in the legislature, things get tense. But we beat them off again for the 4th time this year, but we fully expect that they'll come back. But now, if it goes to Eagle, then they only need to go to Eagle. They don't need to come to the township if their legislation is accepted the way it was written. But as I say, that legislation has not gone into effect, and therefore they must come to Tyrone Township if they want to mine in Tyrone Township.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Any other public comment? Go ahead, Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Pierce again. My main reason for coming here tonight was the overlay for the solar.
Understood.
This is completely amazing to me that some of the things that he's mentioning is exactly what happened in Deerfield Township, and is exactly what we're dealing with on Hogan Road for the truck route. So from what, I've dug into this a little bit, and I do understand that the gentleman that owns the gravel pit, this is just for you guys for experience, because I've lived with it for 12 years now. But I went through and he got a special land use permit. He's got 50 things in there that he's required to do. That he does 0 of them. He's designed to monitor the traffic on Tyrone Township's truck route. He's supposed to have a ton of money in the bank for improvement on the road. His link to the road commission, as far as the necessity to have more sand or more gravel, is starting to taper down because they've got another pit now opened up. So now he's doing exactly what this gentleman said, is Fonce is into the asphalt business, he used to be, and now he's got this gravel company, but now he's crushing gravel and asphalt when they're not mining for sand and gravel. And so all of these things that he's requiring for this new amendments are exactly what he's doing, what that company is not doing to the haul route, if you want to call it that. I mean, as far as the traffic, I personally called Eagle because they have put so much calcium chloride on our road in the summertime when it rains that it is a complete soup mess 3.5 weeks after it rains. So it just sits there. So their idea is, hey, we're stopping the dust. But when there's 15 trucks piled up at the entrance to the pit, and they're sitting on the highway because there is a township, not a township, but a county, that road is closed between 7 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Unless they're escorted by a police officer, they have to sit on the highway until it opens up. And so then you get 25 trucks coming down at, empty weight, and then it takes an average of, I know this from experience because he told me, that it takes 4 minutes to load one of those trucks, and then they're all going back the other direction. And then when they're loaded, it's a complete dust storm for hours after they go by. And this happens in the morning from 7 a.m. till about noon. There's a little bit of a break, and then they just keep pounding. There's days that there's been over 350 trucks go down Hogan Road in the middle of the summertime, the peak season or however. So, I mean, all these things that he's saying are exactly what this company's doing. And so this new company, it seems like we got something to do now against this other company. I mean, I don't know if these amendments are for new business or if they're old business, but it's definitely a company that was in Deerfield Township, was allowed to open up and use Hogan Road, which is in Tyrone Township, as a haul route. And, I mean, there's been deaths, but been a lady killed on our road. There's been accidents. Heck, even the road commission hit a car last year because they grade the road about 3 times a week, just for the safety of the big trucks to be smooth, so, I mean, the reason why I'm saying is it's just experience, and I know if you don't see it with your own eyes, you don't believe it, but it's unbelievable in the summertime, like for instance, Easter Sunday, I had people over. People were floored by the amount of vehicles going down my road, like more than the highway. And so, when I called Eagle, I talked about the calcium chloride. They said it's sodium chloride. It's harmful to everything green. Guess where we live? Everything green. Everything. I got pine trees. I've got everything, and it's so saturated. The Eagle guy come to my house. He measured the grass. He dug down in there. He climbed up on my roof. Took some samples of my roof for the calcium chloride deposits on my house. He was super fired up. He said, "I'm going to get back to you. The dust is terrible. Something's not right." He went down there. A week later, he said, "Everything's good." So that's the last thing I heard of. So I kind of tucked my tail between my legs and said, "This is over my head." I've had hundreds of meetings with Ross. Ross gets irritated at me because I'm so uptight. But in the end, I always say, "Hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the situation." And we normally walk away shaking our hand, and we like each other, and we have occasional wine every now and then. So.
Hey, Kevin, who'd you talk to at Eagle? If you don't mind me asking.
I don't remember his name. He was a young guy.
Jeff?
He's a super young guy, super nice.
Wasn't Jeff? Jeff Pierce?
I don't think it was Jeff.
It wasn't Jeff?
When I called him, it was just a complaint number. I called him. He was at my house. He was going down to Detroit. He said, "I'll stop by on the way home." And man, he was like on it.
When was the last time you talked to him?
It was in summertime.
Like last summer?
Yeah, this past summer. And air quality guy, yeah. And it was amazing what he did. And then a week and a half went by. He called me back. He said, "Everything's fine." He told me that he is actually going to the yard to measure the ratios of dirt, how much gravel they got, if they're changing oil on the site, if they're, just mining operations. I'm in carpentry construction. I get it. I understand it. But when he left, he called me. He said, "Everything's good." He said, "You don't have to call again." I said, "No, I have to call again because you didn't do a thing." I mean, he took the process to actually measure the parts per million of calcium carbonate or whatever, the sulfate, whatever it is now, it's legal. It's not chloride anymore, but the truck says chloride specialist on it, so I don't know what to believe. But anyhow, that's what I warn you of any, industrial site. I mean, the guy who owns the Fonz's pit down there, GBM it's called, knows mathematically how long it takes to load, and I told him there's 350 trucks. He said there's no possible way. It takes 4 minutes a truck and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And I replayed the math for him. I said, he's only allowed 150 trucks a day. And he's the person that's responsible for it, nobody else. Nobody checks on him. Nobody checks anything. So I said you had 300 trucks going on a day because I put it on a deer camera. And I obviously, I can divide and add. And he said there's no possible way. I can only load one truck every 4 minutes, open 10 hours a day, 60 minutes an hour. I says, "So now you're doing the math." So, but anyhow, I just beware of that because it's a runaway train right now. And they're married pretty much with the road commission because they get gravel. And now the speed limit that was 25 is now 55. And they're telling me that they're still placarding the 25 miles an hour because they warn people that to slow down, but everybody knows it's wide open on Hogan Road. So that's what happens. I mean, they just push it to the limit, and then, and like he said, in the end, what they're going to do is have 30 3-acre lots for Deerfield Township that are going to be worth probably $400,000 a piece. So they're going to have building permits and taxes, and he's out of there. So he's on to the next project. And who knows what projects he's involved in, but I mean, it's been round-the-clock process with that mining on our road for 12 years now, and it's been unbelievable. So, and I can welcome anybody over to my house, and when you step out onto my lawn or my porch or anything, you'll say, wow. It's, you know, pressure wash your house 3 times a week. It's incredible, so. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Could the attorney ask one question? He didn't ask it, and I think you might want to know. Is there an independent agency that can come in and test other than Eagle? Because there might be I'm sorry, between the state and all these agencies, I worry about conflicts of interest. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to start trouble, but I always like to have another opinion.
Well, I mean, in this situation, the township could hire experts on its own, and the way the ordinances are written is that the property owner, as part of the application fee and ongoing escrows, is that the property owner would pay for the township's experts. And that could include all the types of experts that Eagle would have.
So
But they would be
with
township
what he was saying about soil report from Eagle or whatnot, Eagle works with other companies, LLCs that do delineation reports for certain properties that have, you know, aquatic soils or whatever. So that, I mean, what he's saying is we could hire that out, but the problem is Eagle ultimately decides and runs the delineation report that is of a third party. I've ran into it a couple times, so that.
Yeah. Well, what we would be doing though, is making our own delineation, you know, not for Eagle's purposes, but for our purposes, that would relate to whether or not, number one, whether or not there is a very serious consequence as a result of this operation, which is a separate, entirely separate question that Eagle is answering. And then during the operation period, it would be a matter of whether they're in violation with the permit that's granted that is going to set specifications.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
Any other comment?
Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, thank you to Mr. Fisher. The times that he's been here, he's just always explained things so well, so I really appreciate that, and especially the sections that he has on the impact on residents. He didn't necessarily say it in that way, but it's clear to see that that's been a concern of his, and in writing this up, it's really appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I would really like to know though is who does police this, because we've been told by previous planning commissioners that it's up to the residents to police things. And so who does? Is that written into the amendments? Who?
Well, it doesn't identify who it is, but I mean, the residents would normally be like the foot soldiers out there determining whether there appears to be a problem. And then the township, under these ordinances, the township could actually hire somebody to go out and monitor.
Okay. So when I've tried to make a complaint in the past, my complaint about something environmental, my complaint was not accepted. I was not allowed to do it anonymous. So it's intimidating for people to have to speak up, and if you're the ones that are supposed to be monitoring it, it's, I'm just asking who does that? Who does the monitoring? Okay, thank you. Again, I really appreciate all the information. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Any other comments? Hearing none, we will close the public comments and go to Planning Commission and planner comments.
I have just a couple minor things in all the articles. The certification, it's at the very end of each article. It says the Township Board of the Township of Tyrone, but there's no E at the end of Tyrone, so it's right there.
page 24.
So it's the same section of every article. Just, it's very minor, it doesn't change anything in the zoning ordinance, but I think it's,
What is it, the township board of the township of Tyrone is not, that's not correct?
well, there should be an E at the end of the word Tyrone.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's,
okay.
yeah, very minor, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean, right.
Yeah, yeah,
Littered throughout documents going back to like
yeah.
And I know that in many, in most of the places, there's, the E is there.
Yeah, but I think, and yeah, it just, in the ones in our packet, all three of them have that, that's it. And then-
The certification.
I had a couple similar ones. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah.
Like page 2 definitions on bullet A.
Which ordinance?
So this is section 1 of the ordinance.
Okay.
So 40.104 definitions, sub A. I believe the means in that sentence should be meaning, not means. Following words and phrases shall have the meanings stated below.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And then the other one I noticed is in 40.107, which is submission. There's a blank under sub A1 for the number of copies. That might be something we should defer to the township board on, but I wanted to point it out anyway. This would be the number of copies to be submitted.
Yeah, Ross may have something to say about that.
So, I mean, typically what we've done in the past is always require 7 copies, however, that's kind of become obsolete with computers and email and all that, so typically we require for most things 2 hard copies, and then the rest, as long as they provide electronic copies of everything, 2 copies is perfectly sufficient.
Makes sense.
So should we fill it in? How many copies?
2 makes sense to me. That's what Rob
Two, but
says.
I would add-
I would say too hard in addition.
Yeah, an electronic.
As long as electronic copies are provided, otherwise I think we would require 7.
Yeah.
If they can't provide digital, but in this day and age, I can't imagine that it would be a situation.
Take a picture.
Is that clear, Mr. Fisher? 2 hard copies and including an electronic copy?
And one
Got
electronic.
it, thanks.
Any more?
That's all I had.
There's just one more in Article 19, page 8, section 6, or subsection, I think it's under. Just, it says, but shall not limited to, I think it says, it should be, but shall not be limited to. It's talking about the location of all internal roads.
So what section is it, subsection?
6, let me see where I'm at in the larger, it's under section C, determination of whether the proposed extraction of natural resources would result in various serious consequences.
Yeah.
So subsection 2, and then it's on the page 8, 2B, 6. Very minor, but you see that, John?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, okay. You can show it on your, okay, you're right.
Well, I'll find it.
All right, let me put it on the screen here for you. I can do that.
I can't see the screen.
I know,
It should be
I'm gonna
up.
put it up. I gotta. which
Oh,
one is it?
you're gonna.
On the Zoom,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Article 19.
How good is the other one here?
Yeah, there it is.
there you go.
Right in there, shall not be.
Shall not be, right.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll stop the share so we get you back on the screen. Any other comments?
I was, hello, this is Gage Balco, planner. And go ahead and turn on my video too.
All right.
Just wanna, hello.
I
So I was just scanning through this, I found one maybe additional, typographical thing. It's, 4107 for submission and review of the permit. Item 7, there's a township that needs to be capitalized. And then I also wanted to bring up just a question for thought, regarding the public hearing. I see that it's within the township board's meeting. I wonder if the public hearing should be at the planning commission, so the first meeting, with the option of the board having the right or the ability to call for a second public hearing. Just curious.
This is in ordinance 19? I mean, Article 19,
Yep, let me double check.
not ordinance number 21.
20, I think he's on 21.
You want 21?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's a regulatory ordinance and not the zoning ordinance, is that what the deal is?
That would make sense.
So in the submission, review, and approval of the permit applications, this is Article 21. I believe it's page 3, page 4. Just regarding the public hearing, at which point does that come into play? It looks like it's at the board, which comes after the planning commission recommendation.
Right?
So I wonder if there should be a public hearing required at the planning commission stage, with the option that the board can call for a second public hearing.
Now, the interesting thing here is, we actually amended this provision, and we have a provision, let's see, it would be section 4107 A6 on page 5.
Mm-hmm.
It says, the township, the board shall conduct a public hearing on the application.
Yes.
So what do you think?
So I'm proposing just the thought that the planning commission shall conduct a public hearing.
Oh, well, you know, the interesting thing about this ordinance, this is not a zoning ordinance.
Right.
This is just an operational ordinance, and typically, you know, the planning commission reviews and makes a recommendation, but it's not typical for the planning commission to also conduct a public hearing.
Understood. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
Always like to catch things as early as possible if we
oh,
can.
you bet, you bet.
That was it for me, for now.
Thank you, Gage.
Okay.
Any other discussion from the planning commission? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting.
So moved.
Support. Motion and support to close the public hearing and move back into the regular meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Back into the regular meeting. Still on old business, item number 1, extractive industrial zoning ordinance amendments. As I discussed previously, we're not going to take action on this tonight to allow any other public comments through tomorrow.
Well, we can accept them up until the next meeting technically.
Yeah, up until the next meeting, but we're not going to take action tonight, so.
No, they can submit as long as they.
Yeah.
It's basically allowing for additional public hearing time due to a typo. But,
Okay, yeah.
Put the agenda back.
Yep. Just on my screen, right? So, I'm not seeing any other, I'm not hearing any other comments. We made those small typo type changes. My assumption is that Mr. Fisher can make those changes and we take action on this at our next regular meeting.
Yep.
And I think that's up to you, Ross, if we need Mr. Fisher there. I mean, he's explained this many times to us. So I
At
guess,
your discretion, if you feel comfortable without him, then we're totally fine. If you'd like to have him there for support, then we can have him join via Zoom. It's,
what's your feelings on this?
we have a
Anyone?
contract right now.
Yeah,
I guess we don't need to decide now. If you think you want him here, let me know and we can let Ross know.
okay.
So moving on, thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
Does he need to
Thank you.
stick around, Ross?
Not that I don't see any.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. I think you got all the recommended changes. Let us know if you need any further clarification on that.
Okay, great. I appreciate it, and great to work with you.
You too.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Moving on to old business, item number 2, utility scale solar, wind, and battery storage overlay zoning district map. So, I'll provide just a short, brief history of this. We worked on this for, I'm just gonna say like a year and a half, long time, and we made maybe 2 years. It was a long time, and we, based on some changes to the law, and we got it, we approved the ordinance text and the overlay map, and based on some further findings from the MPSC, the board has directed us to relook at the overlay district map and add additional area. Our area could be thought to be too small to provide a 50 megawatt solar and these renewable energy facilities. So we're back here tasked with adding area to that. We have our renewable energy special counsel with us here, Laura Genovich. And I guess I'll see if do you have anything further to say on this as a opener, I guess?
Sure, good evening everyone, Laura Genovich. I don't know that I have too much to add for obviously the length of time that we've been discussing it, and we've got the updated map in the packet tonight, so I'm here and happy to answer any questions as they arise.
Thank you so much. All right, so the last time we met, we kind of brainstormed a little bit, I guess, on where to add. We kind of talked about how much. We kind of laid it out around 160 acres that we need to add. Currently, I'll pull up the draft overlay map and show where we had a previous. So this hatched area, which is a location of an existing we'll say industrial use. And that area, it does have lots of unusable land for solar, so the other area that we have in the overlay is this industrial area here near the factory by the gas station and Woody's Towing. And so those areas, the amount that would be available to develop is probably, could be deemed less than that is needed for a 50 megawatt renewable energy facility. So those are the two we've had, and we're just looking to add to it. And we had a bunch of discussion and we talked about these two parcels, but that could be, maybe that wasn't clear, or maybe, I don't know, Bill, you kind of mentioned that this is not what we discussed, or?
Well, that parcel isn't the parcel on Linden.
Right. There's
So
two
the lower
separate
one,
parcels
The
there.
one that touches Center Road.
Yeah, so the parcel I was talking about goes from Linden Road
To me.
all the way to Major Road.
And this is Major Road here. So it's this
So
parcel.
it's that parcel.
Yes, so it would be the south parcel,
Let's pull it up.
southwest corner of Linden and Center.
Sorry, Laura, I'm gonna put this up on my screen so you can see what we're looking at.
Okay, great.
Once I get something up, I'm gonna open the county GIS just so we can kind of look at the most current parcels. I mean, we discussed a lot of things last time, so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not saying someone had it wrong or right or whatever. We discussed a lot of things. And
Yeah, if I recall.
I think the goal is to, we got this draft, we can talk about it, we can add to it, maybe we make a draft version 2, and so on until we're comfortable with what we have.
Yeah, if I recall, like, I thought that we were gonna kind of look at a couple different parcels and then table the conversation until we look at them, and
Yeah, yep, so, just so everyone knows,
Yeah.
these are just all options right now. But, we do welcome comments and feedback as we maybe come up with a draft, and, maybe it's, there's good points brought up about other reasons, that this, something, the ones right here adjacent to Hogan Road, valid point that there's already, a lot of traffic due to the gravel pit and continuously expanding trailer park. I don't get the parcels until I zoom in a little bit closer, but I thought we talked about these.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna share my screen here. Laura, stand by.
Okay, sure.
Oops, and I want this one here. Well, can I just do whatever comes up on my screen?
yeah, if you just share the whole desktop.
All right, let me do that again.
So,
Entire screen.
Yeah, entire screen.
All right,
Is that shared?
okay. So, I guess that was my start to it. Anyone's welcome to chime in and discuss. I think Bill
No,
was-
I think this is based on the math, and we got to a pretty good number with those two lots that are shown on it now. But it is a good point due to traffic, and I think if you look at them, the two lots geographically, between what's on the map or that one that Bill's talking about, there isn't much difference.
Right.
Well,
Except for the primary access route.
Yep.
Is a major difference.
but with Hogan Road already being deemed, with, just,
Get your water.
no, I'll get it. With Hogan Road already being deemed a truck route, I mean, if we moved it south down Linden Road, all it's gonna do is they're gonna go down to Hogan Road, say there's construction equipment, trucks. So they're just gonna go down Hogan Road and to my understanding, there's nothing that the planning commission can do about a truck route. I mean, that's a regulatory ordinance that was passed by the board, so,
Well, Linden Road isn't a truck route from Center to Hogan. So they wouldn't be allowed to travel on Hogan.
But you
Or I
can,
mean,
rent-
on
you
Linden.
can, you can drive on a truck route if you're going to that site, right?
Yeah, during construction, yeah, truck.
You know, yeah,
So the traffic would be most reasonably down Center Road if it went to the parcel, would be the shortest route.
That's a
For the-
fair point.
For the other.
For the other parcel, the south parcel,
Did we bother to get any information on the golf course? We talked about it briefly, or was that just something that we just scanned over?
What kind of information?
Well, we just briefly talked about it. I mean, if we're not trying to get away from like a traffic area of Hogan Road or whatever, like that's right off the highway.
yeah, that's an option too, I mean,
It just seemed like it got scanned over, and that's the proper.
I mean, it's an option, the golf, I'm just gonna,
It's those two right there,
Yeah.
where it's ES. There's that lake there, yeah, right there.
I'll just make it a rectangle. We talked about it, I guess my thought is, you know, especially working through the whole master plan and stuff, I mean, we've identified a lack of recreation opportunities in the township, and, I mean, I guess I don't see that as the best choice, but, you know, it's
what about the parcel just south of the green?
just
The
south.
two of them, right there, just south of where you were just at, those two. That one and the one what to the west.
That's right before,
Dean?
trading post, right?
I just chose a bad color on that.
See where it's marked up on the map he's got shown?
Okay, we're
This
looking at
red,
the parcel south,
right behind
let me
it.
go to my GIS. The parcel south of the golf course?
Yeah, the storage unit, guy in storage units. In a marina, yeah.
Because the south side of the golf course is the power lines.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
that's one
there's-
thing that, I think we talked about, how there's multiple power lines that cross basically east to west. You know, one being
North of Center and one south of Center.
correct, and now and I'm, you know, that's just kind of teeing them up, it's up to them to get to the power line.
Right.
But, you know, that was a discussion, are both of those power lines the ones that are they high voltage transmission that a solar unit would connect to?
You know, I don't know that.
I mean, and I don't really know if it's,
But what about like residential around that area? I can't think of any,
you're
I
talking.
can't think of any homes back behind Tyrone.
You're talking this parcel here, this wooded parcel? Behind?
Is that yeah, right there, but if you go north,
Okay, here's the
right
golf
there,
course.
yep, there's the power line strip right there.
Right here.
So where is the nearest home to the back corner of that?
So where do you live?
Because it's just
Oh, I live on Hart.
Here?
that one and then the one to the left too.
I like this one here,
Yeah,
and I
I think it's,
well, we're just gonna look at the owners here. The, what is this, is, Blue Heron. I don't know what that is.
Nice spot for
I know they were in here once for,
that was for sale.
yeah, they wanted to put a subdivision in years ago and they were holding off on it.
Is that a lot of wetland there, inside that land?
I
Similar to that?
There's
You
definitely.
know, like we put our other spot where there's a bunch of wetland.
Yeah, we don't wanna, and this was only 36 here, and this one is 73. So even that together is not quite getting us to our desirable.
But I see what Garrett's saying, there's not a lot of
And keep in
homes
mind,
right there.
Yeah, Tyrone Hills Golf Course and those two lots, and they're away from residential.
Just hit the other side of the
Bill,
corner.
remember, Bill made the observation that if we tie up that land with all the sewer in front, you brought it up.
that was a good point too.
That was the
Well-
point you brought up.
But that's another point that almost the whole township needs to come together on.
Yeah.
Either we're gonna have business through that corridor
Yep.
or we're not.
And I think like,
Zone 4.
if it was just one of these, like this, and then going across, would be different than, or like here, we've already got one, basically established
They're never gonna build there.
in here. You know, so we already have one that I think my understanding is that we're not going back to those original two, we're only adding to it. So we've already got one adjacent to US 23 that we could deem it prime, commercial development with this sanitary sewer, availability.
What's that lot off center there, John? How many acres was that one, the first one Bill mentioned?
The one just north of these?
No, to the left, just below
West.
the trailer park there.
Oh, over
That
here.
one, yeah.
This one?
That
I think it's 180, but I'll confirm, stand by.
Yes, thanks.
183?
183, so that was.
That one's not bad. I think you get over to the west side and maybe there's some that maybe it's getting close to this creek or something.
If you include
I don't
those.
think that.
But I think the 180 was
Well, 180, that's
kind of the number we
180 is
needed,
good,
right?
Yeah.
It's on Center Road, so it could maybe relieve some potential truck traffic from
Hogan.
And I think you could argue that they're required to take the quickest path to the highway, which this definitely would be.
Center Road.
Can I ask you a question, John?
Real quick, Scott.
Okay. Is there any, because Bill brought up the sewer, okay? So could we have a setback for business and then they can do the solar behind that setback? So we still can maintain a certain amount of business?
That can be done. And we talked about that before, and even Laura recommended when we first started developing these, we're just going parcel by parcel, but we could go half this parcel, half that parcel.
Yeah, that's what I was just, so we can save some of that.
Yeah, we could do that, but thank you for the comment. So, but I don't know, I think, I kinda like this, Bill, this one, but, and another thing is, it's backing up to this trailer park. I don't know if this is a further development of the trailer park or further lagoons, but,
Yeah.
I think that high-density usage is more compatible than other residential,
Yeah, if that was,
in my opinion.
I guess I don't know what the plans are for that one, if they're planning homes right there
Here?
next to that lot, then maybe it's not so good, but.
Ross, do you know about their future development? It looks like you can kind of see the roads. Has that already been developed?
It was a consent agenda, they're building out,
But
finalizing that.
south of the lagoon, current lagoons, are they putting more housing?
Not
Kevin, do you know?
probably, but it's all encompassed within that area where the roads are laid out, as far as
Behind
if memory
trailer
serves.
parks.
Is that one parcel right there under the same ownership?
Sounds like it. I think that's the trailer park owner, but I can look. If it matches this one.
Oh, yeah, that's all common ownership. That's,
Yeah, that's it. So,
as far as the build-out plan goes, that was a consent judgment from a long time ago.
Excuse me, John, I have a quick question. Why are you guys going everything on west side and I don't see anything on east side of 23?
well, one reason is, and we can look at that, and I think we will. One reason is because we're trying to, get we gotta get to another 160 acres, and we're trying to have the least impact to the residents as possible. And, you get over here, and you find we were trying to get near the power lines. I don't know if that's, I don't see it to be a requirement. It almost makes it easier for the developer.
Yeah, so I have a question, like, why are we focusing on farmland versus just focusing on, like, residential? Like, if there's already, like, plots that are owned by residents and houses, then, I mean, it's, whether it's Ranger or whoever, they're gonna have to go door to door, and I mean, we're just trying to supply the land and help them out as much as we can, but it's there.
Well, I think a lot of it started at the beginning of this, that, hey, this is a commercial/industrial use, it's not a
Right.
residential use, is why
Keep
we
it out of those
started
areas.
looking in those areas,
Yeah,
in
right,
the
but the thing
beginning
is-
of the process.
Right,
But we're
past
kind of past that.
Yeah.
So we're not, I don't think we're limited to any geographical area of the township. I think we wanna, in my opinion, hone it in on where it's gonna have the less impacts to residents.
Right.
So, there definitely could be,
Well, that's kind of like the reason why I was like, why aren't we looking at both the east side and, you know, to her point, the east side and west side of the 23 right there.
Yeah.
well, we got the map,
I mean-
sketch on here and show where we want, I'll zoom in, we talk about it, I don't know, I mean,
Real quick, what are these dots for?
Yeah, the
They're
consent
bugging
judgment
me.
dots.
Where did these come from?
Yeah, because those are all new within this draft.
I think, I don't know, that doesn't look to be accurate to me. I think what it is I think it's supposed to have text to say what the zoning district is. Ross, do you know that? I'll put it up on the screen here.
So on
It's
the,
not on the print, see?
on this new draft, there's all these like little
See,
dots
look at here,
that
though.
are consent judgment, whatever that.
No, that's not, I don't think it's
It's
meant to be.
labeled.
I know, but if you look here on my screen, see this one says FR? And then on the printed version, there's dots.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's just
a printer issue.
Yeah.
But to that point, Gage, maybe you could look into that and just like do a test print and make sure that the way we're developing the PDF is also available to print in 8.5 by 11. That's usually what we get in our packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. We'll test it for compatibility for the next meeting. Sorry about that.
Can I see this real quick?
Hey, John, I have a question for Laura. Is that
Go
okay?
ahead, yes.
Laura, this is Chris Ropetta. I know there's not an eminent domain issue or concern with regard to seizing land for this purpose. Obviously, the owner has to choose to lease, but I've heard that there may be some eminent domain issues about connecting electrically between the land and the power stations. Do you know anything about that? And that may impact where we might, with that going back to, you know, can they seize land, for example, to be able to run the power lines from that parcel out in the middle of the farm?
So a private company cannot use eminent domain. It would have to be a governmental entity that was doing that.
Okay.
It's not something that I've seen, but a Ranger Power or the equivalent could not use the power of eminent domain.
Okay, all right.
Could the MPSC?
Yeah, well, certainly the state of Michigan or other government agencies can use eminent domain. I don't know in what circumstance they would. And obviously there are procedures they would have to follow for that.
I got 27 acres here.
Yeah, okay.
50 or 30 there.
I just, all right, thank you.
The thing is, this is where the line is. What's it called, goes?
Go ahead, I can pull it up on here as you discuss.
So again, you know, what I was just suggesting is using her, oh my goodness.
Lena.
Elaine, thank you, Lena. Sorry, it's on the tip of my tongue. I had it. And just using the other side of the 23 too. Like, I mean, it's both right there. So pull it up right here. It's kind of mapped it out.
Old Township Hall and all that.
But I think,
Like, I'm just trying to get us as close to those power lines as possible.
I guess that's, is that what we want to do?
Welcome to Tyrone
It-
Township, plow through the solar.
You know, like, do we want to give them the flattest area that's right adjacent to the power line, or do we want to, I guess it's my understanding, in my opinion, we want to give something that we're willing to accept, and however they got to develop it, that's up to them. If they got to run a power line to get to the high transmission, and it goes clear down the highway or something, that's up to the power company.
There's a limit, so when it comes to solar, there's a limit on how far away, the distance you have to be, or required to be from a power line. And I know this because my dad's a farmer, and we've had had multiple people come to us.
What is the limit?
I don't know what that limit is.
Laura, do you have any input or thoughts on that? I mean, like, are we unreasonable if, you know, say we got a power line that goes through, say, midway through the township, and we put our whole overlay in the opposite corner? that's nowhere near the power line, is that unreasonable?
I don't think it's per se unreasonable, no. I mean, the point of it is you have to allow the land use in the township. So is it perhaps, I mean, we've talked about kind of defensibility, and certainly that was one reason why the township board sent it back, is wanting to put the township in the best position it could be in if there was a challenge to the location of the overlay district. So certainly having it more convenient to, you know, that transmission line is perhaps easier to defend, right? But I'm not sure I would say that it's unreasonable to have it in an area that's otherwise well suited in terms of surrounding land uses.
All right, so with that being said, I think we put an area where we think it's the least impact to residents, and however they get to the power line, that's up to them, but that's my opinion. So, all good points from everyone regarding, you know, maybe we got a little close, going too close to that power line, but,
So we just take this whole thing right there and then just add on to that too.
but I think that 180 is enough.
If that 180 is enough, then that's
The
good.
180 is enough. Based on your
If
last.
that, or 180, what was it, 183? Yeah, this right here. Yeah, because if it's enough to make
I
the 50.
kinda,
Because those two lots before were like 150 something.
Yeah.
I think they were both 70,
Yeah,
70
somewhere
plus.
And then
I'm
just
just
back
gonna,
it right up
I'm
to
just
the-
gonna add up those previous ones that we had. 80,
They were 162 together.
thank you, Gage, yep.
Yeah.
And so, but I would say those are darn near 95% developable. And this one, probably the same, probably the same, you know. So,
So it's a,
I can only see the parcels when I zoom right into close, 183, so that's, a little more.
it's okay.
Definitely, I think makes sense to add it, at least as far as an option.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, I
we said
still wanna
this
get out
is,
and see them, but,
yeah, we're not, clearly we're not making a decision tonight, but
yeah.
I think that's not a bad option, we could call that, draft version 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got that Gage's parcel here? And we're gonna maybe just take a unofficial poll on it. What do you guys think about this as like a draft version 2?
I like it.
I like it, I mean, but I'd like to hear the public too.
I know,
absolutely.
I think it's important to have that in this format, send it
I
out,
think it's right
So people
there.
can see it.
people can see it.
Yeah, I'm good with it, John.
And not saying we can't start a draft version 3 again tonight.
I mean, if somebody else has got a better idea, I mean,
We're open to it, and I encourage, I see Rich doing this here, and Kevin's doing it here, you know, we got these maps, or the public, download the, agenda, or the, packet, sketch your thoughts in here, and drop it off to Ross's office, and write on the back why you think so. I think that's a good, method of public comment.
Thank you for that, John.
Yeah, no problem. So, Gage, is that clear to you to at least make this parcel a draft version 3 and remove the additions that you had last time and also look into that text?
Yep, that's clear.
And then
I'll make those format.
add the, so it looks like we're going with the meeting that we present the draft, you got the date on it, so then we do the same for next time. But put on there a version 2.0, I guess.
Mhm.
And then, I would like, a little bigger watermark on it for draft, you know, it kinda gets lost in that little text.
Got it.
Just cause
and-
that way there's no misunderstanding.
Yep, no worries. We are working on getting additional land use and, existing and future land use data and some of that, information for transmission lines. We just want to provide as much data and different maps for you to compare. But we're working with Livingston County and trying to get some files from Carlisle as well, so it's in progress.
That'd be great.
But we'll hold off on doing any sort of analysis right now, we don't wanna, you know, we don't wanna presume anything, but just so you can have the visuals.
Okay. So, I mean, we don't need to stop here. If there's any other comments or direction we want to go, I mean, we're gonna cover this every meeting. So, welcome to provide any more thoughts tonight, or we can move on.
So regarding those Tyrone Woods properties, the portion there with the,
Ponds?
you know, the ponds, that is not part of the consent judgment. That is property that they own, that they did intend on developing, however, the consent judgment maxed them out at the 403, which is the northernmost parcels.
Maybe they can do like they do out in the ocean, just put the panels right in the lagoon.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
But this,
Floating
you know,
panels.
put it all right in this little square, dump it all in there.
Come on, water, electricity, perfect, let's do this.
But I guess that could be open. I mean, there's area around it, right? So Laura, any thoughts on this? Do you think we're going in the right direction, or is there anything that you need to steer us to a better direction on?
You know, it's really hard because ultimately, right, it comes down to a very unique policy question. So I don't know that I can say, or I don't have a problem with the direction you're going in. You're going to have people, when you notice it for public hearing, who are not going to like where it's at, wherever it's at. And obviously, there's still an open question at the state level of whether we'll even be able to regulate the location. So, I guess I know that's not terribly helpful, but it's sort of been the position I've had and the only position I can take with it, which is put it in the best place you can put it, where it could be developed, that is suitable for your township and what makes sense with the different land uses that you have, realizing that you're not going to make everyone happy.
Understood, thank you. Any update can you give us on the lawsuit, or whatever the correct term is?
Sure, absolutely. Actually, we do have an update as of today. The Court of Appeals is not enjoining the MPSC at this time. That does not mean they've decided the merits, but they're not going to put a hold on the process while they're deciding the merits. So we're disappointed with that decision. We believe we had a strong argument for them to put a halt on all applications while this was pending, but they have declined to do that, and they did not give a reason for why. So we have filed our brief on the merits and the reasons why the MPSC's October order is unlawful, and the state will have an opportunity to respond to that in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess with that being said, our current ordinance is an overlay, is approved and is out there, and someone could apply. So the board has directed us to relook at it. Like, what's our time frame, Chris? I mean, I'm not saying for you to speak to the board, but maybe like give us feedback, or I don't know, discuss with the board. Like, are we going too slow on this? Do they want it done like in two more meetings, or we still got public hearing, we got other steps, but we got to go faster to reduce that risk, or?
Well, I don't think it's about speed. I think this is, I mean, from my perspective, and I don't have the board's statement around this because we're just having this discussion, but I think that this is the right pace and the right discussion to have with the planning commissioners, with the public, giving people enough time. I don't think it needs to stretch out for months and months and months for sure, but within the rest of our priorities, I think we don't want to leave it cold and then come back to it 2 months from now.
No, we're going to discuss it every time.
To me, it looks like
the
progress.
The last time we took us
absolutely
almost 2 years to get to. Right. Now, the overlay was only a small portion.
Right.
The text amendments we're not here to change. So I think I just don't want to be leaving the township open to an application with an overlay that we're not happy with for too long.
Right, well, at least we have an overlay. I think that was what the board was indicating. We have the overlay, they passed it, it's in place. It may not be ultimate, or it may not be the final most defendable, as Laura's mentioned here. And I think that if we went to another discussion, that'd be great. I think to finalize things. I think the space between gives people time to go look at the properties that are being recommended, and I think that's all really good. I would be able to talk to the board about that being the good progress on this particular item.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, we'll move to old business item number 3, Michigan Medical Marijuana Act Caregiver Regulations. A brief summary on this. Basically, I think it originally when it came out, we couldn't regulate we couldn't. Yes, go ahead.
There was a lot of, obviously when any law is new, there's a lot of gray area when it comes to how much authority we have at the local municipality. And initially, looking at MMA, they do require that municipalities do allow for caregiver operations, but the question as to where they need to be located was not really clearly defined. My understanding is there has been a little bit of time has passed. There's been some cases that have been brought forth that kind of lead us to believe that we may have a little bit more authority to regulate location more so than we previously did. For example, I think that in our last discussions on it, we wanted to explore the possibility because the primary concern is residential compatibility, to move them outside of residential districts completely and require that they be in commercial or industrial type districts instead.
Yeah, but we had an unofficial agreement between everyone, I think unanimous, that we don't want it in residential, so.
Based on the history.
Is it,
where we ended up.
I guess, are we at the point just to start drafting the ordinance to remove it from any residential areas?
In my opinion, I think that we're pretty clear on the direction that we're looking at going. I think that we could get some language put together and, bring it forward for consideration.
Oh, all right, so, who is making these changes? Is that gonna be Gage?
Yeah, it would be through McKenna as far as the drafting.
All right.
As far as how in depth we need to get, we do have in our packet today.
All right, let's look.
Regulations.
I'll pull that up.
So we can kind of go through there, if there's anything additionally that we want to add or that we should add based on, the ever-changing legal climate of the situation.
I guess, while I think it's clear that we want to not allow it in residential, but as we make changes to this, maybe there's other things we want to tweak out.
We want to make sure it's completely up to date.
Yeah, we want to tweak out. So, I think it would be good homework for everyone to make sure they've read through all this in its entirety and have any comments on any changes besides the known change of taking it away from residential.
Hey, John, sorry to interrupt you, but Laura's asking if she should stay on or not.
I'm not always sure, I don't think we.
No,
I think we're good on the legal aspect of this, right?
As far as I'm aware, that's why McKenna, I think, has a pretty good grasp on this.
I think maybe if we get to the end, we could just have Laura review what we're doing, but.
Potentially, but that'd be up to the board because the contract is for renewables.
Okay, still is, gotcha. Thank you, Laura, thanks for your time on the
Absolutely. Yeah, have a great night, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you, Zach. That's, we should be respectful of the time. Yeah. Anyway, so, Gage, do you think that you could start with a draft ordinance that removes any allowance of this in a residential zoning districts?
Absolutely, we'll do that review and get those updates made. This is single family, any sort of multi-family residential as well.
I would say instead of just removing it from there, allow it only in. So
Yeah,
you're
okay, there we
blacklisting, you're not blacklisting, you're
That's
just,
what we're doing.
you have
Yeah.
eligible
Where's the
districts, you're whitelisting
Ross,
it
where's
instead.
the text on the eligible district? Is that's in this, or?
Yeah, so we can, tweak the text, from not allowed here to only allowed here,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
I think
Explicit whitelist.
Yep.
I mean, it shows up as where at 21-112. There you go. So you can stick it in there. I don't know if that would be where it would have to go, but.
Yeah.
There's also a table which should also be brought up in the amendment process, which isn't included in this packet, but as far as special land uses go, which indicates where specifically which districts, which uses are allowed.
Okay.
So I'll communicate that as well, and we should just make sure that at all instances the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance are updated.
So what zoning districts do you think we should allow it in?
I mean, that would be up to you, but.
I know, I'm asking the planning commission.
Yeah, it's.
I feel commercial.
Commercial.
So non-farming, residential, rural estate, R1, R2, or RM, lake, manufactured home. Okay, what about,
I would even say M1.
commercial, but which commercial? B1, B2?
Probably B1. It's a local business. It's not a community.
Whatever's, I would suggest maybe consider whichever is a little bit more intensive or has a more regional aspect to it.
So B1 has a little bit more compatibility with residential, so permitted uses. B2, I mean, is a little bit a step up from that.
Okay, so B2 then, yeah, B2 or more.
B2, what about office service? I don't think we have hardly any of that, do we?
Yeah, it's right up there in the corner. But and then over here, I'd hold off right there, right here.
Oh, yeah.
I'd hold off on
Hard to
office
tell.
service.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can.
Okay, so B2, expressway service is like gas station, right?
Correct.
So we're thinking no on that, or we?
What, don't a weed shop here?
Well, we don't want to confuse it with our resolution prohibiting marijuana establishments, right? I mean,
This is strictly for.
This is medical.
right, right. No,
Yeah,
no,
this
I
is
understand,
But good point, Chris.
But we just don't want, we want to make sure we're delineating, because if we're going to move them to commercial or other areas as well, we may have to, there's a lot of language about restrictions of signage and things like that. Right now, they can't put a sign out that says anything, but if they're in a commercial zone, maybe.
Well, under the MMA, if it's a caregiver act.
You
there's
can't.
no sign.
You can't do it.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
not supposed to be a commercial, it's not supposed to appear.
Right.
as anything other than.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
M1, M2?
M1 and M2?
Yeah.
I mean, those are industrial, heavy industrial, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so B2, M1 and M2?
What about EI?
No, because that could be in,
EI is pretty much obsolete.
Okay, I was wondering.
I think that's probably enough.
Yeah, that's probably good.
I would
I
think so
mean,
too.
really, any property,
Yeah, I think
there's
that's
very few
B2
non-residential
and 1 and
I
2.
know, but
properties available currently, so anything other than the residential districts, they're likely gonna require rezoning
Okay.
regardless.
Yeah, and like the PCI is
that's kind of a,
commercial industrial, but it's
that's,
a mixed
Yeah.
thing, but yeah.
So, I mean, we can still have all the restrictions in place for compatibility with residential, and that would apply even if it's a commercial or industrial district that's abutting residential. We still have the authority to do all that, it's just eligibility wise, where can they apply to do it?
Well, that's what I was thinking. If it's adjacent to a residential area, we still want to have language in that says, not next to the bus stop is the driveway to this
Right,
place,
yeah.
and
And that's
things of
what
that
happened.
nature, even though it's commercial.
that's good.
And that's what
point.
happened earlier, exactly.
I know the last time we went through, there was a whole lot of gray area when it
Yep.
comes to separation distances. I don't think bus stops were even brought up as part of that, but.
So what's a good separation? This is separation from a residential,
42 miles? No, I'm just kidding.
that might be deemed unreasonable,
I'm
but
just-
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
2,000 feet?
I believe, a lot of the state acts or the licensing and regulatory stuff is more like 1,000 feet from churches, schools. I can double check and provide some options.
Yeah.
What about like,
Yeah.
so you have bus stops and you have the unofficial bus stops, right? So what about, like, obviously we know the official ones, but what about like the unofficial ones? When I mean that, I mean like just the places where the kids go and congregate to pop on the bus. Like I think an instance of that would be like Heartland and Fawcett, right? Like it's not really an official one, but there's a lot of people that just kind of meet there and throw their kids on from there.
Well, don't the districts actually establish those?
They are established.
It is established.
Are they established? I thought it was more of an unofficial one.
But also, that's in a residential area, right?
Yeah. But I was just thinking like because I mean there's areas that I'm looking here where there's like M1 and 2 and also very close to residential. So I mean that my thought process was okay, well if there's a bus stop within that area or around that area within 1,000 feet, like it could be affected. So that's all I was trying to do is prevent that from happening.
If you go with M1 or M2, it's very, I mean, I see no houses next to any of the businesses.
The M1 I do.
Where?
Well, I mean what's this stuff here? Right
That's
there.
just a parcel.
Are there parcels? But what about across the street and then around?
That's the golf course, isn't it?
Oh, that is a golf course.
Current parcels, but,
Okay.
someone could,
You zoom in.
Yeah,
rezone, right? Which one?
Yeah.
so this one here,
That's what's.
You got
his-
the golf
that's what's his
course,
face's wood
repair
shop.
place.
Yeah, you're right.
Would it be beneficial to
What's his face's
go to
wood
the
shop?
surrounding school
Yeah, what about
districts
these two?
to understand and get maps of where if they would allow us to see where those bus stops are?
Potentially, but they are ever changing, and for reasons of privacy, they
Right.
don't want to disclose that information.
Right.
It's pretty much between them and the parents for safety reasons, which.
Oh, sure.
But I think that the bus stop's always gonna be near the residential, so we
Yeah.
need to tie it to residential, right? I mean,
We have a house on that corner here.
I was trying to look up the moratorium, but that's fairly recent, but we do need to take that into account. Not saying it probably could be extended, but, we
There's
gotta
houses in there.
start making our way towards a ordinance on this one, and I think this one's fairly simple.
So I looked at the text, there were a few things I noticed, at least as far as the existing ordinance is concerned.
yeah.
One is a little more substantive, I figure I'd raise it now,
Okay.
because it treats paraphernalia differently when it comes to delivery than the actual marijuana. I assume we can do this, so this is in 21-112 primarily. I think we would want to make it clear if we can that, they would have to deliver the paraphernalia and that it wouldn't be something that could be purchased from a caregiver facility directly.
But it does say that it's prohibited, right?
No,
It says no,
Except to the qualifying.
Patience.
right,
Is paraphernalia actually
I thought that was like,
specified under the act when it comes to caregivers, Gage? Do you know that?
We saw.
Can I hear a request?
Yes, regarding paraphernalia, do you recall, is that specifically addressed in the MMA? Or is that something that we may have just placed in there?
There is a paraphernalia definition.
A definition?
Yep, any equipment, products, materials intended for use, point containing all the stuff.
materials for use, they're talking about the weed. All right.
Yeah, well, like a pipe or a grinder or something, I don't know.
Yeah, but what if they say a tobacco pipe instead of like a tobacco water pipe?
Well,
Instead of like a
that's
bomb.
kind of a loophole now.
Right.
Tobacco shops.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. It's
Yeah.
like, it all depends on how they define it then.
The 21-110 that specifies it in D1, the definition for drug paraphernalia,
right.
with a pretty good list.
Every party store sells it.
If Bill's got a new store, he can sell it there.
But and it does
No, they
look
do.
like it
Every store.
excludes the actual marijuana itself as not paraphernalia. And the other thing we want to make sure we're also addressing during this discussion at some point is the idea of the smells and odors that emit from these places. It's huge. And just because yeah, I mean, I've even heard that we're starting to smell that down on Fawcett Road already from of the one that's that was denied, the last application. So these kind of odors, I know that Ross, maybe you mentioned before that we have other ordinances that would control that kind of stuff, but in this part of the ordinance, on page 1C, there should be no outward appearance of a caregiver operation. Also, outward odors and other things that would be considered that people driving by or walking by or anything like that we would want to make sure we have processes in place to control or at least investigate, control, and inspect. There's a lot of inspection in this ordinance already, but if we don't have an inspection team, do we contract those kind of inspections out to people? Those would be questions that I would think.
We only had one, and we contracted, we had law enforcement go out
Yeah.
and do verification with the one that we had permitted in the township in the past. And I assume that's the way that we would go moving forward, is law enforcement, someone who actually has a little bit of expertise.
Right.
But they're operating.
Yeah. Yeah. Because as of last Friday, I think I heard that people were smelling stuff from that operation again, externally.
I bring that up to Greg because there's, as
Okay.
you know, some legal issues.
Yeah, all right.
So, Gage, I think what I'm getting at here is we want the strongest ordinance possible to allow this by law, but it, really have a really tight ordinance. And
I hear you. I think there's a lot of considerations when it comes to odor and processing of environmental waste when it comes to these operations too.
yeah, so have you written these ordinances in this very tight manner before for other communities?
I have. A small village up in Lake Orion has some pretty strict regulations, and Inkster, Michigan. I know it's kind of out of the way from Tyrone, but they were one of the first communities to sort of regulate it, and they were actually pretty strong on their environmental stuff in terms of odor and any sort of nuisances. So yeah, we got a good team. Mario is also really familiar with this.
Very, very good. So what I'm thinking is maybe if you could bring us some of those, maybe your favorite snippets from each ordinance example ordinance that you mentioned that can make us a really tight ordinance for this. We can look at it, or you could start, take your shot at it, a draft. I mean, we can review it. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I agree.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
I'm not a good writer. I'm not really a good writer on this stuff, but we got people that can do it. So,
I don't know, comparisons maybe?
yeah, bring us options, and we can look at it and say, hey, we like this one, and
For just our example, we could do that, potentially. If you're able to provide just some examples before actually any drafting, we could possibly talk about that next week.
yeah, we can do that. Is Gage gonna be on next week?
I have not confirmed, but if he's available, then
All right.
it would be next Wednesday at 6 p.m. for our workshop, if you are available for that.
If not, you could send it over before then, maybe.
Absolutely.
Then we can just review it on our time.
Discussion.
Workshop's kinda for that anyway, but,
Sure. What time is that workshop? Again?
6 o'clock, next Wednesday.
Okay. I should be available, but in any case, I will give you a minimum warning so you can compare and discuss.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I'll confirm that attendance.
Any other discussion on this item? Okay, moving on to new business, nothing there. Call to the public.
Oh,
Jeanette?
I just want to say thank you to the Hogan Road residents that turned up tonight and gave us some really good information. I'm really tired of hearing there's nothing we can do about it, it's not our jurisdiction with roads or whatever, so I can't imagine how tired they are of hearing that. And I've been over there, I've videotaped, I've seen the craziness of these trucks flying down these roads, and I've seen Kevin's house covered in, like, it's just horrible, and him power washing it and always getting the same answer. So when do we decide that there's something that we need to do for residents, figure out a way to help them, or somehow figure out something that can deal with this? It's just not fair. I can't imagine buying property over there and having this happen. So it's not just an aesthetic thing. As you heard, there's been people killed on that road. There's been horrible accidents. And, you know, it's a nightmare with something really horrible waiting to happen. Not to mention the environmental concerns about what they're putting down on that road. It says one thing on the truck, it says one thing on the bags that go flying off of it. But again, there's nobody to regulate it, nobody to set up speed traps or whatever. And my understanding is that if they do get reprimanded for speeding, it's the driver, but the companies have somebody right out there right away again. So again, we're all one community. I feel horrible for what they're going through there, and I think we need to stand up as a community and say this is enough, and let's figure out how to help those guys over there. It could happen to any one of us, right? So let's do something about it. Thank you.
1 second, Scott. Well, regarding the planning commission, I mean, I think, we're here to handle the planning business, and I think we're trying to do the best we can to if there was an application coming through, that's something that we're gonna think about. If there's, in the neighboring township, if they allow a certain use, and they're using a road commission road, and there's a truck route approved by the board, I mean, that's not within the jurisdiction of the planning commission.
John,
And
we're all residents.
no, I know, I just wanna.
It's like this whole sort of thing. We could have gone up, I met plenty of planning commissioners,
That's fine,
people
yeah,
up there, supervisors, et cetera. We can speak out for our community. We
Yeah.
can go to bat for them. We don't have to stay within our little rules.
Thank you for your comment. Go ahead, Scott.
I understand where she's coming from because we had the public hearing on it tonight.
No,
So she's just adding to it, so, because then I wanted to add to it too. I think we owe our neighbors.
Yep.
I think we owe our neighbors to have, somebody independently check that, except legal. I think that's what I like to see. I think this township owes them that. We need them to have somebody come out and inspect that material, see what kind of damage it's doing. It's not much to ask. So, that's done. We got a board member here too, so we're kind of directed it towards him.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, anyways, I talked to Ross, entirely different issue. In the future, I know it's gonna go to the board, but I want your guys' feedback, because I got some. Special land use permits in the future. They used to be a little more strict, and we're just getting so loose with them, because we're talking about traffic, like in areas like that. We need to get back. I know I'm gonna push the board for this, and maybe I get some support from you guys, because it comes to you first. It's like, I'm not picking on Peabody's, but he came here, this is what I'm saying, just using him in general. He came here, and he's got a unique thing, ice climbing, which we all said, okay, it's good. He's come here and says, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna limit it to this. And then since then, it's just getting bigger it keeps adding on, okay? So what we need to do as a community, I'm hoping, because we all, in different areas, are gonna be affected by special land use, because more and more of it's coming, is we need to kind of contain it. To where, my wife had a beauty shop in Harlan and Foley, she was only allowed to have a small sign, she couldn't have any more like 1 or 2 cars. You're not gonna have, we don't want something, a special land use, where someone's gonna have hundreds of cars coming to one house in a residential area. You get where I'm coming from. So in the future, what we need to do is, I'm asking, and I think a lot of my neighbors are asking, we don't want to direct so much traffic to one area. We want to kind of spread it out and just not give someone so much in one spot. You understand what I'm saying? So that's something, I'm going to work on the board with that. And I've been trying to do that for years because, like I said, my wife did have a special land use. And we were very limited, very limited. And we've gotten way out of control with it, way out of control with it.
Thank you. Any other comment? Hearing none, move to miscellaneous business. The next planning commission workshop is scheduled for next Wednesday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. I guess that
John, I have one other thing before we close. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of go over what we should talk about next workshop. Any thoughts, anyone? We're gonna talk about, I think we'll talk about the utility scale solar. We'll talk about medical marijuana. I think we're good on extractive industrial. Is that okay, Ross, that we don't discuss it at a workshop?
Yeah, because we'll need to take action at a regular meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered it so many times. And that should probably be good for the workshop, unless anyone
those
else
two
wants
items,
to add anything else.
Chris has some.
Sounds good, Ross. You can still email me a draft if you want, and we can do that as usual. But any other miscellaneous business?
Just on that health department stuff related to the renewable energy, there's been another memorandum from Dr. Nevin from St. Clair County Health Department, even more tying into the health effects of solar, industrial, battery, wind, and the call to at least his county to get tighter and start making this and starting to draw on legal issues around the health department at the county levels, responsibility in applicants who are applying to do solar, wind, and battery renewable energy, even going so far as having to get their permits, or however that process works, that they have the right things in place from the health department at the county level as well, not just in the township. But I think we should look at that more. I'm happy to take and work with the county. There's some other surrounding townships that are already that I've already been working with a little bit to start looking at the county health department from our perspective to maybe ensure that our ordinance, if we decide to add something, could it reflect a county health check in that ordinance as a tightening mechanism as these things emerge. So that's all I wanted to mention. We can discuss it further at if it's part of the solar wind stuff at the workshop.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I just, I mean, I think with like that business at hand, we're talking about the overlay, but I mean, the text amendment is something that we can always revise at any time. Things change, the ordinance is revised. So if you have a thought on the current text amendment for the renewables that we passed, and more information comes out from that, we want to add something, I think that's worth discussion. I do want to try to keep on our agenda and our overall task list. And, we did spend like 2 years on that one, and I don't want to just keep going back to it every time. Not saying we can. And maybe the board tells us, hey, go back to it and relook at it. But
well, I think what I'm asking simply is, this is a big deal. This isn't something that's just a little thing. And in light of what Laura described to us today, that they're not able to get a hold
Yeah,
on these things with regard to the
That's like a
current,
moratorium, right, that she basically.
they can't.
Okay. Yeah,
Then
they can't.
this is a pretty significant way to add a layer of protection in potentially for our township, if we have the appetite to do it. I mean, we have to have the appetite to look for these particular things. And is it worth pursuing? I think we should be, in my opinion, I think we should be pursuing from a planning perspective when something major like this comes out. Your thoughts are, of course, welcome, of course.
Yeah,
it seems like it shouldn't be too difficult to add it, because we're not rewriting the ordinance.
No.
It might
Is it
add
something
something,
we have to go
and
back
it, maybe it's in there, and I have to read it
We did
again.
a public hearing.
You have to go
Right.
back through the process, but the point of, hey, get this health department's approval first, but usually in our applications, that's part of our requirement is they have to get all the agency approvals, but that was why the question of what does Livingston County's health director, what do they determine these as, or how do they approach a solar installation or something? It would be good to know that, because then we have understanding, Ross, of, hey, when they get that agency review, what does that entail? Right, like if someone came and applied and we got our approval from Livingston County, well, for us, they got their approval, but what does it actually mean? I don't know that part of it, but I think that was one of the meetings we asked, like, hey, what is their take on it? But I don't know if they'll give you anything or not, is another
Are you
question.
asking me to reach out? Is that?
I forget, we talked about that, to reach out to the county, but yeah, I don't know if there was no affirmative direction. I think it was probably
I guess if.
November.
I don't mind reaching out myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be.
I mean, it's
I think
not a
that's fine,
problem for me.
Yeah.
I just, because it's significant, we should be able to at least explore, and ensure that our.
I don't believe so. Gage, were you gonna, mention anything regarding that, or were you maybe just ready to head out for the night?
Oh, no, I was gonna suggest,
Okay.
we already have some requests out to Livingston County for data. We're happy to reach out to the health department too, to see if they can provide any feedback,
Sounds
if
good.
you'd like.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I'm hearing that, you're interested in understanding the criteria or kind of what an approval from the health department means for solar, installations.
Well, we have a statement from a memorandum, several memorandums from St. Clair County Health Department, who is directing their county, and there's a lot of language. We need to review that with our health department if possible, and see if this is something they would be willing to consider. I mean, we're trying to recycle. We're not trying to just craft everything new each time, but there's lots of law, public acts, especially relationship with PA 233 that says that PA 233 says it has to ensure the public health, and all of these things are already in these memorandums. We need to get it to our health department in Livingston County to hopefully talk about and maybe socialize it with them to see what they're doing about it, and as a point of public interest for us. But because it affects the planning commission, this seems to be the right place to be discussing it at least. But
Yeah, well, I'm happy, I'm just offering any sort of, middleman or partnership in trying to get some information, so just throwing it out there.
I'll reach out to you, Gage.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gage. I guess, any other miscellaneous business or any other discussion? Sounds good. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, sorry, good night, Gage. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.
All right, bye. Yeah, thank you, man. I've been great for that.
I know.
I'm glad I'm not going to hockey.
It's been
glad I've kicked it, but it's still like, it's getting that lower low, so it just sucks.
Everybody's got it.
Yeah.
Thank God I don't.
I'm doing the same thing.
You'll have it tomorrow.
No. Mine's long since not contagious. Mine was like from 2 weeks ago. I've just never been able to kick it out.
Yeah, see you later.